All right, here we go. I'm super excited to have Caitlin on our call. We're going to have a long discussion. Actually, it might be a little bit brief, but we're going to have a discussion about your host journey. What I'm super
Yeah.
excited about is how do we actually let new investors have a real life understanding of like what your experience is, So from my standpoint, it is the easiest way to do this is let you tell your own story. We have so many
Yeah.
interesting hosts that came from so many different backgrounds. So I'm going to stop talking real quick and then we're going to just jump right in. Caitlin, who are you and how did you find
Yeah.
us and me? And let's jump into it.
Yeah. My name is Caitlin Verdugo. I am a realtor at Keller Williams Metro Atlanta. I am the chapter leader of the Atlanta chapter leader of Investor Atlanta. Um, it's an organization empowering women to invest in real estate, which we have a few different PadSplit hosts that are in our group. And then
Shout out to
I have
Liz,
been
by the way. Love your
Yeah, she
group.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Liz and Andressa are both really amazing. And then there's a couple other girls in the group, Blake, um,
Yep.
Jasmine Brown. They're also PadSplit hosts as well.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I've been a host for a few weeks now. And it has been an exciting journey.
Yeah.
But I've been a real estate investor for the past couple years. I have a duplex that I rent out midterm also, and then just obviously help investors with their acquisition and their portfolio management too. So yeah,
Okay. Couple things in there that I want to unpack. Okay. Which
yeah,
is, I love that you are part of Investor. I am a
yeah,
huge fan of Liz and Andrea and like that community. Like I keep saying, I love the ladies who are joining our platform as hosts.
yeah,
They bring
absolutely.
such a refreshing view of like how they view our business and the entrepreneurial side of how they attack things. Like I love how they view it. They view it as hospitality, and then the
Yeah,
real estate is
definitely.
just kind of how they get there. Okay, so two things is you're a realtor and an
Yeah,
investor. Of
yeah.
all of the things that are on the menu for you to choose from as an investor, how did you land on co-living and how did you find PadSplit?
Yeah, so I first heard about PadSplit a few years ago, back in like maybe 2021. I actually had a client that has a bunch of houses on the platform.
Hmm.
And we just randomly met at one of those showings and kind of got started from there. And I thought that it was a great idea. I mean, I love the mission of affordable housing, and houses for a lot of people are really unaffordable right now. And so this is a great solution to be able to kind of combat that a little bit. So yeah, I originally heard of PadSplit a few years ago, and I just never made the jump myself
Okay.
until 6 months ago, and something came across my desk, and I just couldn't pass up on it. I knew that we could turn it into a great co-living space, and so we did. So
That's
yeah,
fantastic. Okay,
yeah,
that's really exciting in terms of how you got there. How did you
yeah.
actually identify the property
Mhm.
and what made you connect the dots to say, "Oh, this could be a co-living property"?
Yeah, so it was listed as a three-bedroom, and then when we actually went and saw it, we realized it was a five-bedroom with a very easily convertible living room
Yeah.
into, all large bedrooms. So yeah, we identified it that way and just knew that we could make it happen. It had a great layout. It's a split level, so you walk into the ground floor and there's a bedroom of probably what used to be the dining room, and then you go upstairs, there's three bedrooms, and then downstairs there's two bedrooms. So
Okay,
it
so
was just a great layout. And yeah.
when you looked at the property, what were the other exits that made sense for this property?
Yeah, we can also do a short-term rental too, and just rent out the entire space of maybe like an insurance need, or long-term rent, but it's still penciled.
Yeah.
Not as well as obviously a co-living, but yeah, we had a couple options there. And then we could have
Okay.
also just flipped it, but again, the mission is providing affordable housing. So yeah.
Okay. So I love that, and I think it makes a lot of sense, right? There's the mission side
Yeah.
of it. I've historically always said that I am a mercenary and
Mhm.
then I'm a late blooming missionary, right? So when I
Okay.
say that is like the
I like that.
entrepreneurs that we talk to, it has to pencil, right?
Yeah.
It's real estate. Like if the numbers don't work, then my God, walk away,
Yeah,
right?
for
There
sure.
will
Absolutely.
be another at bat for another property that makes sense. Okay. So you found a property, you understood that we
Yeah.
were an exit. And talk me through kind of how the hoops and the jumps that you went through to acquire this property so that we can kind of get into I have an idea. Oh, here's a property. And then this
Mhm.
journey to get to becoming a new host, it's it's chock full of potholes, right? It's like
For sure.
you gotta dip and
Yeah,
dive
it's
through a
not
bunch of
easy.
stuff.
For sure. So yeah, I guess we had the idea of co-living. We had obviously heard of it. We've heard of other people doing it, but we didn't really put together that that's what we wanted to do until we found this property. And actually, my partner and I, had gone to a Georgia RIA event,
Huh?
and PadSplit was a sponsor of that event. And so there was someone sitting at the table, and the dots just kind of lined up. Like, we had just seen this property, we had just gone to the Georgia RIA event. I had it in the back of my mind that, this guy does PadSplit, and a lot of people do PadSplit. And so yeah, we kind of just went from there, and we connected everything that way. But yeah, it was kind of just stars aligned, and we realized that everything would work. And now we're actively looking for more PadSplit,
Okay.
um,
So
PadSplitable
pad
houses.
splits, right?
Yeah,
This is a really important part that I like. You and I had a long discussion, and that's a kind of
yeah,
what led to this. And I
yeah.
love this piece of it right here. It's like, oh, idea, amazing.
Hmm.
And it pencils amazing on an Excel spreadsheet, but
For
then
sure.
there's an actual business. Like I've always
Yeah.
jokingly said, acquisition through activation, you're building a car, right? That's the
Yeah.
opportunity to build um, multiple 2, 3x revenue for the existing
Hmm.
property. And that's the nuance, like beauty of it is that you know something that somebody else doesn't when you're looking at
Right.
properties. So that's huge,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But then you actually have to operate the thing.
You
Because
do.
if you're not a good operator, you can have all the
Yeah.
potential for the revenue that you want, but if you can't actually operate it and reach the revenue, because I know we have some struggles going on, but talk me through A, what your anxieties were when you started,
Hmm.
and then kind of where you are now in terms of like how you view this property opportunity, because that speaks to a lot around like what your goals were when you started, and then kind of what your goals are now from the lens of the operator.
Um, yeah, so the anxieties, I guess, were, how are we going to find tenants? How are we going to screen tenants? How are we going to kind of manage all of the things that go on from the operations side? How do we what silverware to use, and what, all
Yeah.
of those tasks times a million, all of those questions times a million. How do we know what the best neighborhood would be, what the parking situation should be? And we definitely took a lot from the um, PadSplit host Facebook group. We like immediately joined that, and we started asking so many questions.
Hmm.
And everybody in that group is really really helpful, and they helped walk us through some of that, getting insurance, because it's not a typical property, and it's not a normally you don't have to insure houses by the room, and
Yeah.
this one you obviously do. So those were a lot of the anxieties, and we found a lot of the answers in the Facebook group, and just talking to other hosts. And honestly, the account execs, Audrey and Blake, have been super helpful, and you've been super helpful in managing a lot of that and helping us through that.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. So you said silverware. Okay.
Yeah.
And like so I have this hat that I wear as employee at the company, but I'm
Hmm.
also an investor and I'm also a host, right? So like there's certain
Yeah.
things that are super important to me as the investor because
Hmm.
not investor, Liz, but investor, right?
Yeah.
But from my standpoint, it is I think about everything in reverse engineering, right?
Hmm.
So I start with the member experience. Can you tell me about what your hopes are? And like what member experience are you wanting to deliver? Because you
Yeah,
essentially like I view them the members as clients and customers. So
absolutely.
for me, it's like, well, what am I delivering as the member experience so that I'm adding value? So what's your view of your
Yeah.
member experience that you want to deliver?
Yeah, we want to deliver a really high quality living experience. We want to build a community, and we're hoping to have community members that also want to build a community. And so we're screening a lot of our tenants for from that angle of, is this person going to help build our community and help be the people that we want to recruit to this community. So when we're looking at different things like furnishings and like the silverware, right?
Yeah.
We want to have high quality things to get that experience, to have that high quality experience, and to not have things that just break so easily and that feel really cheap, or that feel like you're living in, not a good place. So we're specifically choosing things to build that high quality experience.
Okay. So in your mind, who's the customer?
Mhm.
Give me the avatar that you
Yeah.
have in your mind that you're like, "Ooh, if I could get 6 of these," because your house is actually, tell me what it started as and what is it currently after conversion?
It started as a 3-2,
Mhm.
and then we bought it as a 5-3, and then we now have it as a 6-3.
Got it.
And
Got it.
the avatar that we're kind of working with is the like young working professional. So they're maybe 25 to 35. They have a good paying job, but they don't want to pay for an entire apartment. They don't want to furnish an entire apartment. They don't want to have 16 different bills to pay, and to have all of these things that they have to do aside from working and building their career and everything like that. So I think we're kind of going in that angle. And my partner and I have talked a lot about this, of the different demographics that are drawn to co-living spaces, because you have
Yeah.
the college spaces of like dorms. Everybody loves that community. Everyone, for the whole rest of their
Not
lives,
for the
they're like,
rent,
oh my god, it was great. Yeah.
not for the landlord. They don't love that
Not
demographic,
for the landlord.
right?
True,
And
true,
that
not for the landlord, but for the member experience.
Mhm.
They love
Mhm.
that community, and then once you graduate college, that doesn't exist
There's
anymore.
no housing stock that matches up to that experience, and, like,
Right.
you and I have talked about it, like, that's where I think the niche lies for somebody like you and I, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for
and our
sure.
platform is just a platform. It is a digital platform,
Yeah.
16,000 people are living on it, and
Mhm.
the investors, again, it's a dynamic marketplace. Like, I can have a 10-3 that works, and I can have a
Yeah.
6-3 that works. The numbers are what the numbers are, and that's the big point is, like, you can make your net profit, the net income that you want, out of multiple
Mhm.
different ways,
Yeah.
of the structure. Location happens, and then the biggest thing that people aren't talking a lot about, and which is amazing because I found you, is like, if you lead with the member experience, like, what okay, I'm gonna back up because I know my own thoughts, but I'd like to try to get yours out
Yeah.
of your brain.
Okay.
The member experience that you're creating, why? Why do you have this member experience in mind? What are the motivating things that you hope to achieve?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
I think that doesn't exist very many other places, and so I would like to make that exist. I think it might just be as simple as that, of that's just
Yeah.
my I'm just passionate about affordable housing and building communities. Obviously, I've kind of built a few other communities, right? And so, it kind of solves the problem of affordable housing and community living.
Yeah.
Um, and in all honesty, like, I lived in a lot of these co-living places over my 20s. I was a traveling young professional. I, lived in Hawaii with 6 other people. I then moved to Asheville, and I lived in a hostel for a few months, and it was great. It was an amazing time. And then I moved to, my own apartment, but I still had a whole bunch of roommates, and but it's really difficult to curate that for yourself. And so I think I want to help other people curate that experience. And so that's kind of
Yes. That
what I'm
that's
doing now. Yeah.
that's
I'm just
exactly right,
creating
and, like,
experiences. I don't know. Yeah.
and the value and the advantage that I have is that I speak to a ton of members,
Mhm.
and I'm always asking because on the back of my mind, I have to figure out how to monetize this wonderful idea and mission that I have, right? Like, And
Yeah.
for me, when I think about the value of the member experience that you and I are trying to deliver, I want stickiness. I want you to stay. I want you to feel like this
Right.
is home. I want you to be proud of where you're living. I want you to invite your friends and be like, "Look at this. I'm paying 800
Yeah.
bucks. You're paying 1,600 bucks. Who's renting smarter?"
Right.
And
Right. Exactly.
right. And then like I don't know about you, but like COVID sucked. COVID sucked so
Absolutely.
bad across everybody.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was missing was community, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were all just stuck in our own houses, and if you lived by yourself, you didn't see anybody, and you didn't have that human interaction that we all need.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So those are the things that I think that are super special about having hosts like yourself on our platform is that like there's a place for somebody who is one step from living in a car. And our
Right.
platform has doors across the entire scale, right?
Yeah.
The riches are in the niches, as real estate
Mhm.
people will tell you. This niche that you and I are attacking is young working professionals who see value in like I look at it this way. The only place that I can give myself a raise in all of my expenses is housing, right? You
Yeah.
can the fastest way I should say, because I can stop
Yeah,
going
the
out to
fastest
eat. I
way.
can turn out,
Sure.
turn off all the Netflix and all these other subscriptions that I am blindly paying for. But literally the members that I speak to, they're shaving off $500
Yeah,
off of their
absolutely.
housing expense, which is
Yeah.
and then all of a
And they're getting a
sudden,
better experience out of it too because they have new friends and they're
yeah.
meeting people and they're going to different events and they're having Thanksgiving dinners. Um, it's in a lot of ways better than having your own apartment where you're just sitting by yourself watching TV.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Yeah.
that. Do you have a common space in your house?
We do have a common dining space. So
Yeah.
I also wanted to curate that. So we have like really cute chairs, we have like flowers on the table, cute artwork behind it, and wanted to make that a space that people could sit and eat dinner together. But we did also put a separate eating space where if you don't feel like socializing, you can also eat.
Mhm.
At this single space by yourself too. You
Cool.
could also just pull over the chair though to the group dining table. But yeah, we don't have like a living room or anything that we did turn into an additional bedroom.
Did you do
But
it
yeah, we
because
have
you
stuff.
had to make the numbers
Um,
work?
yes and no. The numbers were definitely um better with the sixth bedroom, but we also it was just like building one single wall across and then it matched the additional bedroom that was built down
Yeah.
there by the people before us. Um, yeah. But we
Got it.
wanted to make sure to keep that community dining space.
Got it. So, talk to me about the member screenings, because I know that's how we initially met, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Good and bad and indifferent. Like we go through screening for members, and then there's additional screening that you're doing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you? What's when you ask questions to the members, right?
Mhm.
Beyond the fact of like, hey, you can't have this in your background. Right?
Right.
Let's just get
Yeah.
to the baseline of you're acceptable. You have a job, you qualify for this. I'm comfortable with what you're working on, or how
Yeah.
you make income to pay me.
Mhm.
What other questions do you specifically ask to match up to your desire to build a community in the house?
Yeah, first I also add a, like, baseline of we are a community that respects each other, and so if you're not one that's going to respect people's spaces, I'm sorry, but we're not a good fit.
Yeah,
So that's
and that
another one of our
and that's
baseline.
okay, right? Even in Atlanta, there's
Yeah, for sure.
6,200 doors
Yeah,
that you can go find
absolutely.
one that fits for you.
Yeah. So the things that I ask are usually like, what's your work schedule? Are you, sleeping during the day? Because we do have a lot of people coming in and out all the time. I ask, what do you like to do outside of work? If you are a, movie enthusiast, oh my gosh, well, so is, one of
Yeah,
our other members. Like you guys would be great together. I want people that all just generally are like sociable, and again, back to the community. I look for people that are, yeah, mostly just respectful, sociable, have some hobbies outside. And then I also took your advice and have been telling people that we are introducing like networking opportunities and business building. I have this other investor, which is very
Right.
similar, where we do, networking and events and personal growth, personal development. So I'm starting to invite our tenants into those spaces as well.
Yeah.
And so far, that's gone over really well. Yeah.
It's amazing to me because the idea that I came to you with, and the story I told was like, I literally got this from a man that I was sitting next to in the sauna at the gym. He was like mid-20s, and the other guys were like 50, 60 years old. And the one thing that he was mentioning was he's having a difficult time getting out of his closed network that he's in. He's like, I
Yeah.
hear all these things. I got all these feeds on my Instagram. He's like, how do I meet and network? And
Yeah.
like it occurred to me, and that's when I went back to my members. I got a guy who he works for a company, right? I'm like, wait a minute. Everybody that I know in the real estate world needs pest service.
For
I was like,
sure. Yeah.
why don't I just introduce you, and whatever leads come, you benefit. For me, it's
Yeah.
ultimately the mercenary kicks in on the background. I'm like, if this guy is getting, positive lift in his life, the value of staying with my house, it's tied to me as the
Mhm.
operator now. It's not just, am I getting four walls that's safe and I have a bed? These little
Right.
incremental deposits into like why I want to stay. And I love that like in your mind, it opened up your lens of like, wait a minute, I have this entire networking,
Yeah.
possibility that it doesn't hurt you at all to introduce them to, and I think
Right,
that's
exactly.
eye-opening. It's eye-opening. So
Yeah,
super
I think it's
cool.
definitely an added bonus to, uh, staying in our house, just like you said, staying in our house, having access to I network all the time. In the real estate industry, we network all the time. Going to
Right.
conferences, going to events, meeting groups of people, really widens our network, and so I'm like, that is a great idea to kind of just join the 2, introduce these groups of people to these groups of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a really great idea.
And that's a part of our community we have like over 1,300 hosts, right, that are active.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everybody is looking for the next property. And that's why I love realtors that are hosts first,
yeah.
because my God, your learnings on what is a good property. Do you know the number one question I get from everybody who comes to our platform?
What should
I
I
wa
look for in a
Yeah,
property? Yeah.
exactly. Find me a property, and, like,
Yeah,
I'll get your information. We'll post it on this because 'cause I'll edit it back in,
yeah,
but, like, I
absolutely.
want investors who are looking to work with hosts because there's so much nuance beyond the buy box. 3
Yep,
bedroom, 2 bath, 1,600 square feet, good parking. There's a lot of those when I look in Zillow, but, like,
yeah.
there's so many nuanced things. Are there any 1, 2, or 3 things that jump out from you when you look at a property that's just straight check off a box? What are the next things that you look at?
Um, so I think the check off the box things for me personally are the bedrooms to bathrooms
Yeah,
ratio. That is a very easy check. I don't want more than 3 people sharing a bathroom. I think
yeah,
that's really capped right there. And if it doesn't already have the bathroom, you can always add a bathroom if there's enough space, but that's something we would go in, walk through the house and see. I think having a small space where you can still have that community building, whether it's like a dining room or a small living room, um, is important too. I think parking is very very underrated thing that people look at.
yeah.
And the houses not being super close to each other, um, is another thing that's you can't tell just from a listing, but you can tell when you're walking the
O
property.
Okay,
Um,
let me
yeah.
be more leading in my statement, okay?
Okay, sure, yeah.
The one of the struggles that your team is having is recycling money to build a portfolio,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah,
one of the things that people don't think about, because if I went to go look for 3 twos, 1,800, $250,000 or less. I get a lot of dots on my Zillow map.
yeah.
But what I don't think a lot of people consider is, how do I build a portfolio of these things? Because buying one house, it's a great learning, but it's a pain in the ass. fundamentally, you're essentially like I call it the Goldilocks standpoint is like 3 to 5 properties. That's real
Mhm.
income, right?
Yeah,
That's a
for
real
sure.
monthly income that is paying itself off, and you're building this like generational type of thing. This the if you don't get the first acquisition right, and this is where
Mhm.
like the financing is so important. Can you share some of your struggles? Because I think a lot, it's like it'll help a lot of people in terms of them running their face into like so much excitement, and then you get to go try to
Yeah.
close like, it's like it's so
Yeah,
painful. Like, like what are some of the things that you struggled with on getting it financed correctly?
for sure. So our probably our biggest problem, our biggest issue was that we had a private money lender give us the majority of the purchase and renovation costs, and then we
Mhm.
had a gap funder who we did not think to make a lien against the property. And so we should have, and if we had done that, we would have been able to do that 80% rate and term refinance rather than the 75% cash out refinance. So
Oh, that's
that's
huge. That's a huge unlock.
it's huge. It is
Yeah,
huge. And that was not something that we had really heard anybody. I didn't know that
right,
until we
right.
did this one. So I think making sure that all of your loans are liens against the property is number one, and maybe an underrated thing that other people wouldn't know either.
Right.
Um,
Oh, that's
the
so
second,
good, Caitlin. That's so good. Because all the
yeah,
investors that are gonna come to you when they're gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, she knows what she's doing." Nobody talks about that. Like, I use this term like
no,
looking around corners, right? That's the value of experience.
for sure,
And a
yeah,
lot of our hosts get stuck on one property because, like,
yeah.
they bought it, it was amazing, the realtor was like, "Yeah!" And then they go to refinance it in, like, long-term debt, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I'm using a DSCR loan," right?
Yeah.
Can you explain what a DSCR loan is a little bit so that they like the folks that are new hosts and they're looking at it? What is a DSCR? What's the most important things in a DSCR loan?
Yeah.
Preparing for it.
So a DSCR loan is a debt service coverage ratio loan. You have to make sure that your rents are more than your debt service. And one of the major ways that a lot of big lenders will do that is just by using the long-term rental amount,
Yeah.
long-term, rental comps. A lot of times, though, in Atlanta, those long-term rental comps do not cover the debt service, especially right now with higher rates. It just doesn't cover. And so there are some lenders, we're using one that are able to take, slightly different and more creative approaches to doing that
Yeah.
DSCR loan, but using like the Air DNA data, they can use, a few different methods.
Yep.
But one of the other things that we didn't know in this is that most of the time they will not consider the bedrooms that are below grade, which is another thing to know as you're looking at the property. You will be able to buy it, you will be able to rent it out, but you will not be able to use those bedrooms when you refinance because they don't use the ones that are below grade.
That's gold. Because for us, we look at those below grade rooms as $800 a pop, $1,000 a
For
pop.
sure.
Boom, 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 boom,
Absolutely.
boom.
Absolutely.
And this is the huge part, and this is why I wanted you to talk about it, is if I can't refinance out of the deal that I think is an amazing deal and on Pencer looks like a great deal, I'm gonna leave $100,000 in this thing. Like,
Yeah.
essentially, if I buy a 200,000, let's say $250,000 property, I do $50,000 in reno. Those are real numbers in Atlanta. Now all
Yeah.
of a sudden I get a wonderful ARV, like the appraisals are really high, and then I go to get a loan, and my loan processor is like, "Wait a minute, the average market rate is 1,700." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" And now all of a sudden I
Doesn't
have to
cover, not even
bring
close.
so much more money to the table, right? Instead of
Yeah.
the 75% maxed out DSCR ratio, now it's like 60, 65. And every one of those 10% drops, I, as the investor, have to bring more money to the table to reduce the ratio of the rent, right? So
Right.
instead of my loan being a full 75 of the ARV, it's actually based upon what the debt service will cover. And that number of the loan, which should have been $250,000 on the loan, it starts going down and down and down, and all of a sudden that my contribution to the closing goes up and up and up. So for
Yeah.
investors that are out there, if you're not aware of how DSCR coverage works, it is not based on PadSplit eventual rent. That's the icing on
Not
the
at
top.
all.
The
Yeah.
acquisition still falls within the framework of what existing hosts have to do, right? Lenders have their own requirements. And that's a
Yeah.
huge lesson that I got out of your conversation. It just reminded me of like, for me to buy my second house, I got to tighten up on what I'm buying here, and reverse engineer it. So that's
Yeah.
huge. All right.
Yeah.
What are your goals as a host? What do you want to try to do?
My long-term goal, well, our long-term goal is to have a much larger co-living space, talking like a mixed use, multi-story. I think that co-living is the way of the future, and so we really are looking into turning a commercial space into co-living.
Yeah.
So that's long term. In the short and midterm, probably having a dozen PadSplit properties that are just residential converted into co-living spaces, and yeah, but really focusing on the long term right now,
Yeah.
and looking for opportunity there.
That's awesome. And your active
Yeah.
income, I love you as a
Oh,
realtor. I think
yeah.
that
I'm a
you've
realtor.
got great insight. Do you want to let people know how to contact you as a realtor?
Yeah. If you Google me, there are a bunch of contact methods, but you can also friend me on Facebook. I've got a Facebook realtor page. I think probably texting is the easiest way to
Yeah.
get a hold of me. Do you want me to say my number? Or are you going to put it
I'll
in the
share your
show
contact
notes?
information right in there.
Okay, great.
So if you want
Yeah.
me to use your cell phone number, I will. And I'll put it
Okay.
into
Yeah.
the actual recording, and then hopefully you get a
Yeah.
bunch of leads. And then I love the fact that
That'd
you're
be
a
great.
realtor and you're going to
Yeah,
help our investors find the right properties because not all
for sure.
realtors know what's a good property.
Very true. Very true.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is super great. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with you more
Yeah.
and more. Um, yeah, I'll see you on
Yeah,
the
thank you
Facebook
so much for
pages.
having me. I appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, and looking forward to building and filling out our first one and getting our second one.
Love it. Welcome to the community, Caitlin.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.